Welcome, and this is just going to be a quick, short, happy little intro to a feature that we announced recently. For those of you who don't know, I'm Nikki, also known as Dippy Nikki. I'm the community manager for Multiverse, and today I'm joined with the wonderful geniuses behind Multiverse, Chris and San. If you want to take a moment to introduce yourself.
Hi there. So I'm Chris, CTO over at Future Tech Labs. Been in games for many, many years now, almost as many as San, but I'm not as old as him, so not as many years. And I started Future Tech Labs to make the metaverse with San about 6 years ago, after many other things, and helped work out and launch the Infiniverse late last year.
Cool. My name is Sam Shepard. I'm the CEO of Future Tech Labs, and yeah, I did everything with Chris.
But the most important thing is you are in a true and passionate romance, and it has been everlasting for a good number of years so far, from what I've seen. So I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to answer some of the questions we've got today, mainly because there have been a lot of questions. From what I saw following the recent AMA that we did last week, I believe, there were a number of people who are really, really enthusiastically interested about our new property development feature. And we did kind of go through it a bit, but I'd like to give you guys the opportunity to answer some of the more pressing questions that have come up.
Sounds good.
Are you ready, Chris? Are you
Almost
ready?
go there just to see what happens.
My first question, I'm going to keep it quite simple, mainly because I say people have watched the AMA, but there's going to be a few people who haven't watched the AMA. So when we're talking about property development, there's quite a few clueless people, no doubt. So Chris or Xan, can you kind of give us a little bit of an overview of what property development is and how exciting it's going to be for Infiniverse and Multiverse?
So, if you've already played Multiverse, which you probably have if you're listening to this, within it is Infiniverse, which is our nice big, not quite infinite yet, um, procedural world that's got lots of cities in that people can buy into and things like that. It's been going for a year, and this Christmas or over the next month or two, we're taking it to what we envisage as being the natural next level in doing what I'm kind of passionate about with the metaverse in general, which is handing over control from us, who I see as the people that just facilitate it, to the people that use it. And the way we're doing that in this stage is we're going to make it that people can buy plots of land in Infiniverse and develop them. So we're switching from a world where people can buy apartments in plots of land that we have set up with cities or parks and things like that. Well, now we're taking the next stage and we're actually going to allow the users to define where those cities and parks and villages are.
I know from some of the feedback that we've been getting around that, the just general interest, this is a big deal for communities, a big deal for some of the people who have already heavily invested in areas. And we'll cover a couple of the topics in a minute, but I know before we did the AMA, we kind of teased or let it slip that after Cell Now left, people who had invested in certain areas were going to really benefit from this new feature. And we'll go into that more, but I can tell you right now, there are a lot of people who have gone out and got themselves quite a bit of Metacoin and are rearing and ready to take full advantage of this new feature. So the next question I've got has been quite a hot topic in the community at the moment. There are already areas within Infiniverse that have been built on, established, and they're already community developed districts. How do communities protect the areas that they already have established? Do you know?
Yeah. So, just for people listening to be absolutely clear, um, as I've said, we're passionate about giving the world control over the Infiniverse, and that is going to include plots of land that already have apartments and things on, because we can't have our cake and eat it too. If we're going to make it controllable by users, we've got to make it controllable by users. However, it is also really important to us that the individual people or communities that have already invested in areas are protected. And if they love areas, they can stay loving them. So what we're going to do is define areas that already have developments on, potentially areas around them as well, as protected areas, protected plots of land. And this will be very clearly communicated before you spend any money. And as a general rule, the principle we'll be working to is if an area is a protected plot of land, the owner of it will only be able to improve it. So we're not going to stop them editing it altogether, but they will only be able to make modifications to that land that we believe will make the land better. And whenever we add a new editing feature, we'll ask ourselves the question, right, what aspects of this editing feature represent improving the area? So to give you an example, with an unprotected plot, I can choose from scratch what's down there. I might place down a statue and I might later decide to remove that statue. With a protected plot of land, I cannot delete a statue, a fancy statue that's already there. Because people may already love that statue. It's just not an option to me. If we introduce modifications to buildings, then in a protected area, I would only be able to apply upgrades to buildings. I would never be able to downgrade one. So every element of the editing process we add, the first thing we will do is consider this question: how do we make sure that you can only improve protected plots of land? So our goal with all of that really is to make sure that if you're currently invested in an area, then the worst case for you, if you don't want to take part or can't afford to take part in the whole plot thing, the absolute worst case is that that area stays the same. And the best case is that somebody decides to come along and make it better. It's never going to get worse.
So just to be clear, just to make sure that we're abundantly clear about this, I'm not going to be able to go in and buy a Lion's Guardian statue and rip it down and put a peanut there instead.
That will be impossible to do.
And I won't be able to go in and buy the Lady Unity and turn her upside down and point her the wrong way.
That will also be impossible to do.
And I won't be able to go in and pull down somebody's apartment building that they're in.
Never, not even in an unprotected piece of land. If an apartment building has owners, you will not be able to pull it down. But in a protected area, you won't even be able to pull down empty buildings.
And will I be able to change something so that it's subjectively better, in my opinion, but not necessarily subjectively better in other people's? I don't know. We've got trees in there and we end up having different types of trees, apple trees and pear trees. And people like apple trees, but I want a pear tree as a landowner. Will I be able to do that?
I think when we get down to the individual editing features, I'm going to be honest and say I don't know the exact specifics for every one of these features. But when we sit down and work out, we're adding the ability to change trees, Sam and I will sit down, we will play it, and we will ask ourselves the question: if we were invested heavily in this plot of land, what would we be happy for the landowner to change about it? And that will always be the question for us, because we're here to protect.
I think the community has already had those conversations as well. I think the community have figured out that if you've purchased an area that has a community already established there, the best thing you can do is work with that community to retain those people and attract more people. Because if, say, for example, you had, I don't know, a beach community and everyone there has got tiki themed this and boat themed that, and you come along and you take away the palm trees and put in, I don't know, skeleton trees, you're not really sticking with the theme. So people looking for the beach district or the beach community area probably will think that's a bit odd. You're more likely to draw people in if you stick with what the community in that area wants. So it's probably of your best interest to work with the community or work with the people that are living within your area, I guess.
The way that I like to see it when I talk about it to myself late at night in front of the mirror
Of course.
is it's about guardianship, really. You own it, you'll be generating revenue from the plots that are there and the metacoin that come in, but it's about looking after and being a guardian of an area as much as anything else. And I think that from what I've got a sense of, Chris, that's very much how you and I think about it. And that's what we're trying to allow users to do. Make it better, look after it, caretake it, tend the garden in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to give an example, like just to stomp on your idea, Nikki, your example was one in which people could take an area and potentially make it worse. And it's exactly the sort of feature where, if and when we release the ability to add new trees, San and I would first be sitting down and looking at the different areas and asking ourselves, well, if we're going to allow you to change trees, we have to make sure that it's done in a way that will only make people happy about modifications to their land. I'm not going to claim we will get it right absolutely 100% of the time,
No.
but 99.9 is the goal.
You strive for the best.
We do strive for the best, and we want everything to be better.
Yeah.
It's in our interests.
Exactly. I mean, I think the way that we talk about it quite often is, well, how can we be fair, even though fair is subjective? We're trying to be fair here, and that's the key goal. So yeah, there will be places where minor things happen, but that's not going to be a big deal. And at the same time, the key things that people are really, really, really passionate about, we're going to do our best to make sure people can't destroy.
Since the announcement, some very eager beavers have already started planning their empire. And the question that we're getting a lot is, how big is the plot? Is it just like the districts or the little cubes within it, or is it the entire postcode cube? How big is it?
On many of the maps that people will have seen or you can download, or indeed that I think are shown on the mini map on your wrist, what are shown as postcodes, i.e. N0E1 on outgoing maps, that is a plot of land that you'll be able to purchase. And on average, they're based on a 300 meter by 300 meter grid. So they're sort of on that kind of scale. And so you'll be modifying the layout and existing blocks of land inside it, and then over time be able to modify what is actually inside those blocks of land.
If I'm right, because I'm just trying to make sure that I'm right here, Chris, the blocks are like a city block that we're used to in a real city where you've got a bunch of buildings surrounded by roads. That would be a block. And that's not what we're selling, is it?
No. We're
not even selling just the building and the plot underneath the building.
If we were being technical to comparing it to New York, we'd be talking about districts.
Yeah.
But I'm cautious of using that word because the community that word something else, and that's actually why we called them plots of land, is they're these postcode plots of land.
So just to be really clear, when I look at the map and I'm looking at this massive map of Infiniverse and there's all these splodges of cities, we're not selling the cities either. We're selling those sort of hexagonal, pentagonal cells within them, and it's one of those that you're going to be able to buy. Correct?
Yeah, I look at it as, I used to play Catan, and I see it as one of the hexagons. So
yeah, we're selling cells, and those cells contain a bunch of blocks, a bunch of streets, and on those blocks a bunch of different things ranging from parks to little mini pools to buildings to skyscrapers.
And grey open spaces as well.
Grey open spaces, and those are all things that we're going to be selling as a group to an individual that owns them. I think I did some calculations, and I wouldn't be completely stupid by saying that the average cell or postcode plot that we're selling has somewhere in the region of up to 100 buildings on it.
That's the average, I think.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is. But also then I want to talk a little bit about it, because when we say we're going to make things restricted to what owners can do, if there's a really ugly grey plot of land on my land, little asphalt block of square, is that going to have to stay asphalt the whole time?
Well, I mean, this is exactly it. Even on a protected area of land, I think we would probably come in and say, you know what, if you want to upgrade that area of concrete to a beautiful statue, we're going to let you do that. So you're still going to be able to make improvements to that area. We're just not going to let you go in the opposite direction.
So we're going to be able to sell whole cells. A city, I think, when I've looked at it, if we look at the way that the cities are named and laid out, have around 20 to 30 cells in them.
Yeah, I mean, you're tempting the program me to go into the maths, and I'm trying to hold back.
You can see it on his face as well. Like...
I don't want to say anything mathematically inaccurate.
I can see smoke coming out your ears. Yeah. In producer terms, we're dealing with something on that scale, and therefore we're looking at a hell of a lot of stuff. And just also then be clear, if I buy one of these cells and I want to build my empire, like Nikki says, and that empire is more than a cell, I'm going to be able to buy more than one cell.
Yeah, and as we'll go into later with respect to pricing, when buying neighboring cells, you'll benefit in terms of the pricing, especially if the cell that you're neighboring has had a lot of people in it, or has been improved with statues and things like that.
So just to be clear, if I buy a cell and I make it absolutely magnificent, I make it the most beautiful cell district area, whatever it is, postcode block plot in the world, and it is the most popular place on the whole Infiniverse, that means that I'm going to benefit when I try to buy the lake next to it or the city block next to it.
That will make it massively cheaper to buy the neighboring plots of land.
So really, we're incentivizing people to really care about and look after their plots, because that will give them a reason to be able to do more in the future at a cheaper price.
Yeah, so the vision we have for all of this is, let's say you go out into the countryside in the middle of nowhere, and you saved up enough Metacoin to buy one plot of land. You buy that plot of land, you let it build up, you earn Metacoin as a result of it building up because people are buying properties in it. And at the same time, you're improving it using that Metacoin by adding statues. And you get to a certain point where the neighboring plots of land are now cheaper, and you've got more Metacoin, and you're incentivized not to just go off to some other random location and buy over there, but to expand your city. And Sand City gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then Chris comes in and destroys it somehow.
Right next to it.
So essentially you're saying that your area of influence expands over time depending on the amount of investment you've got on your pot.
I mean, I'd say we're not limiting what you can do, but from a business perspective, it will be beneficial for you to work in a way that starts somewhere and grow out.
That makes sense as well.
On that note, if I come in as a massive business with a lot of money and I want to be able to buy up 100 cells day one when it goes live, that is me starting up my empire. I want to be able to own the cells, and I want to have 3 cities on that 100 cells, 30 cells each, whatever it is, bit of green land in between. I could do that, but it would be prohibitive.
It would be expensive, yeah, absolutely. But you might want to spend lots of money. But I think most people, a lot of people will want to build over time.
If I'm a really not very rich person, but I'm starting out, I've got a district I've spent some time looking after. I've bought a few properties in there. I've got my storefront in there, and I'm really happy with that area. I like that area. I'm going to be incentivized to take ownership of that plot, and I'm going to be able to do that relatively cheaply.
When we're talking about pricing, a lot of it's going to work in terms of a fairly high base price for land, which we can talk about, and then following discounts. And all of the discounts we're going to apply, with no fancy maths or anything like that, is within a given plot of land, we will add up the money that you have spent, and that will be on apartments in that plot of land, and that will be deducted from the cost of purchasing it. So if you have, if you've spent tons of Metacoin in a given plot of land, the odds are you're going to be able to get it for next to nothing. You want something brand new that you've not bought anything into, you're going to be paying closer to full price.
Yeah. That in itself incentivizes people to stick to where they've got their investment. So a complete stranger coming in saying, oh, this district looks great but has no investment, it's going to cost them a lot of money to do anything with it. That's cool.
Yeah, that's good. Love that. Awesome.
Okay, so here's one from me, Chris. Brace yourself. Theoretically, if I wanted to create, say, Nikki Town, and I walk out and find a completely blank green space, how can I go about living my dreams?
Okay, so as I've said, we've got editing features I see as something we'll add to over time. It's going to be a roadmap scenario. But what we are what we're definitely going to release this year, the objective is to make sure that before Christmas, you will be able to buy a plot of land and then select a template for that plot of land, i.e., empty, lake, park, suburb, urban, dense urban, village, select it, choose from a set of layouts for that thing so that you can, randomly choose one and get the one you want, and then save it and set that as the structure of that new plot of land. The future editing features, which we don't have roadmap/timing for just yet, is things like then going into that plot of land that you've set up and changing or upgrading individual aspects of it.
Pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I think Nikki's got her dream laid out for her there.
Yeah, I already know what I'm going to do. I already anticipate an entire statue dedicated to me, and everyone will come and pay tribute. Welcome to Nikki Town, the taxes tribute.
Ban developers from investing.
Exactly. No Chris allowed club.
That's awesome. I think the thing that I like about that, just to be clear though, is we're not going to be selling that on day one because people haven't already invested out there in day one, right?
No, we're going to start selling. So our goal with selling is we want to sell stuff before we can start modifying it, because we want to give people a chance to get where they want to get and plan. What we're also going to do, because we do want to be fair about this in the context of things where people have really invested, is when we first launch from the 17th of October, the people that own the most properties within a given distance of a plot of land will be the only people that are allowed to purchase that plot of land. 2 weeks later, on the 31st of October, we will take that restriction off and anybody will be able to buy a plot of land. And the reason for that is just to make sure that if you've gone in and genuinely been passionately building up, I think Lakeside is a classic example, you are going to be the first one with the opportunity to own it, and you're going to get a massive discount on it because you've invested lots in it.
Yeah.
And really the idea here is just to make sure that where people have already invested passionately, it's kind of not really a big step to then owning that plot of land.
Yep.
And they get first dibs.
So to be clear on the first dibs thing, just to say, so Nikki wants to start her Nikki Town, and I want to have Sandopia, because Christopia is such a good name, I want to copy it.
Yeah.
And I want to do that out in the sticks. Because I've not invested out in the sticks, because that's out, far away, I can't buy that in those first 2 weeks because there's no investment. But I can 2 weeks later, or when we open up the rest. Yeah. I can then go out there and I can buy that and I can do that. So there are going to be two different types of tactics here. If I have a big investment in a part of the world that's already constructed, on day one, I can snap that up, make sure that I've got it, it's mine, it's set, and it will be relatively cheap for me to do that because I've already invested in there.
On the 17th of October.
Yeah.
On my birthday, which I love. That is awesome. Yes. And
I didn't know this.
Completely coincidental.
Completely coincidental. Okay. Makes mental note.
But yeah, my birthday present to myself might have to be a plot of land.
I have actually, I have checked, and you are not the number one investor in any plots of land.
Oh, those dreams of Sandopia.
The next point is perfectly teed up for that. So as the fact that I don't own any single plot yet, or not own, but I'm not the top investor in any single plot out there. That means that I don't have first dibs in those first 2 weeks. But what happens if I've got an area that, let's say, I've been to, it isn't really developed, but I can see some potential in it. There aren't that many other people invested in there. Maybe just the penthouses have gone, but I really like it. I want to become the top investor in those 2 weeks and then buy it. Can I do that?
Yeah. I mean, buy more apartments in there, sell some apartments elsewhere. If you've got apartments elsewhere, transfer your investment into that plot of land. You will become the top investor there, and you will automatically get a discount on it because you will own a load of apartments there.
Look at that. Next gen tactics already, Sam.
Yeah, so I just want to get this straight because these tactics are important. So we're because I'm now like absolutely certain I know exactly not which plot of land I want. But I've got this plot of land that I want. let's say there's a couple of other people that have sprinkled around there. It doesn't seem to be any single person with massive investments in there, and going in there isn't going to hurt anybody because it's not been developed. Nothing's happened. There isn't a district there. There aren't drops there, but it's an area I can see potential in. I go in and I start buying some more apartments. My name will rise up the leaderboard of top investors. And when I hit the top spot, I will be able to buy that plot.
Yes.
That's cool.
In those first 2 weeks.
Yes. And then after that first 2 weeks, it doesn't matter where I am on the leaderboard, I can buy it because it's then open.
Yeah. And just to be clear, the reason it's 2 weeks is we just want to make sure that if you're going on holiday for a week without your headset, you can still come back and you still have a chance. Because we know that some people will have a few days where they don't have access to a headset, or their kids drop their Oculus, or etc. etc.
Life.
Have that chance.
A couple of really stupid questions just to make sure I get my strategy 100% right. Let's say there's a plot of land that I've bought a couple of properties in. Everybody else has only bought one, but one other person's bought a couple, Nikki. And I want this to be Sandtopia, and Nikki wants it to be Nikki Town. And we're both at 2 properties each. Who gets dibs in a scenario where there's break even?
Yeah, that's a good question, Sam.
Right. Okay. Second question.
I'll have to make sure that I have checked the code on that front.
Second question. What happens? I can then go in and just buy an extra one, and then I can buy it straight away. And that would be my tactic, because if I just buy an extra one and then don't buy it straight away, Nikki could also come in and just buy an extra 2 and buy it from me.
That's what I would do.
The goal here is to try and do it straight away once you've got the ability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's the only exception to this rule that's important for everyone to understand is that Chris will probably get the one with 4 cryonic circuits in.
Okay, them sound like fighting words. So
well,
you say that, but good. But then that just to be very clear, then we are actually selling cryonic circuits.
Well, someone's got to convince me to relinquish that degree of control, which is going to hurt. Sam will have to buy me rum, and then that will probably happen.
Perfect. I love the excuse of buying you rum. Okay, so we've agreed, just to summarize where we're at so far. We are going to be in a situation where there's going to be a period of time where the top investor can snap it up and not anybody else. That means that people who've gone in and invested will be able to take advantage of that. The only caveat is that somebody could come in and buy between now and then and take it away because they've become the top investor. So our leaderboards are live and dynamic, and the top investor is a dynamic function that happens as the game plays.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
Changes things.
Yeah. Second thing is that if I want a lake, let's just say that I want a specific lake because I like fishing, and I imagine that in the future I'm going to be able to do stuff on my lake, and I want to be able to own that lake. The lake isn't going to be for sale in the first 2 weeks, is it? Because it doesn't have prior investment on. But if I own the most land in the area next to the lake, I don't have to buy that land to be able to buy the lake, do I?
No, the algorithm is deliberately designed to make sure that if you've invested in a plot of land because it's next door to a beautiful lake, this early 2 weeks will allow you to purchase. It will apply to that neighboring plot of land as well. So yeah, if you've bought the plots of land with a beautiful view, I mean, sure, you're not going to be able to buy everything up to 100 miles view away, but you will be able to get those neighboring plots of land.
Perfect. So when I want to buy that plot in the canyon and keep the canyons around me canyons, I could buy the canyons around me.
The answer to that is yes, but it does lead on to, well, that original question of we'll be making sure areas are protected. I think we'd all agree that no one wants to destroy those canyons.
Those canyons are awesome. They were such a serendipitous bug.
So when we do eventually launch the ability to modify terrain, and we will, I think it would be pretty easy for San and I to go in and say, well, if we launch this, we want to make sure that those canyons can't be destroyed, because it would. So yeah, canyons perhaps a bad example. But
no, but it's a good point, because somebody that wants to buy that canyon today to destroy it and flatten it and build land on it tomorrow is actually not going to be able to do that, because that canyon, for example, might be protected.
Yeah, and that's why they would be notified before they purchased it. This is a protected area of land. There will be limitations to the modifications you can make to it.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
That's really good to know. I think that's going to reassure Bryce at least.
I
Bryce
think there's
Canyon
more
is
people.
safe. So, just want to go back to the blank space and the blank plot of land. How am I going to be able to link where on that blank land I'm developing stuff to the map exactly? Like, how am I going to see that connection? Is it a point on the floor? Is there an indication of areas in that blank space as segments that I can build on?
So the first simplest way will be the map on your wrist menu will show you what plot of land you're in. And you will be able to click on your wrist to bring up the discovery menu with the page that allows you to view or purchase that plot of land. We will eventually be launching the new map room that I've been demonstrating, which lets you view the area from sort of God perspective and again select areas and purchase them and things like that. Though we're not certain quite when that's going to be released yet. And what people will be seeing appear shortly as well is in plots where there was already space for it. We'll also be seeing little plinths and statues dedicated to the owner and top investors of that area.
Oh, it's like a visual representation of that leaderboard.
Yeah,
That's cool.
everyone likes their face in the Infiniverse, right?
Yeah.
I've been looking at the artist's work for that. That's quite exciting. Give me a little bit of info on it. What are we going to see?
Well, my version was a really cool cube with some really cool squares on. But our artists have insisted that we have a beautiful statue of an avatar with the owner of that plot's face on the avatar and some nice, lovely discs below it to show who the top 3 people invested that area. But as I say, there is the cube.
I like yours, and I think if the community saw yours versus the really fancy one, they would just pick yours for the hell of it because it's perfect. Those plimps aren't just about the leaderboard though, are they? Doesn't it show status of the land?
Yeah, so it shows the leaderboard, and the face of the avatar statue will be the either the for sale or the current owner of that plot of land.
But you can then also use those plinths to interact with, can't you?
Yeah, so you'll be able to click on it to open up the menu to view the information or purchase that plot of land.
Cool.
The one thing just to understand is the reason I say where there's space is in a busy city area where there is already a load of statues and no other free areas, we're not going to delete a statue to fit one of these plinths. Or in a beautiful area of countryside where we're not going to suddenly add a lump of concrete in the middle to put a statue in. So these are going to be there where it looks nice.
Having gold statues of myself or Nikki or whoever it is in there with our faces on, I mean, that's got to be the coolest thing to happen since the apartments went up, right?
Yeah, but as I say, there won't be any with you on because you don't invest anywhere.
You're banned.
So
okay. So just to be clear, though, that for example, that plinth, that statue could be something that later I would choose to change as a landowner.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting into the later editing features there, but I think that's a pretty cool thing to be able to place in an area, upgrade it to a bigger, cooler statue. Maybe change the materials on it, move it to a different area in your district. These are exactly the kind of later editing features that will allow you to really make your plots of land your plots of land, and people will start being able to say, well, I want a ring of buildings around a giant central statue to myself. Sad.
Yeah, I'm just that guy, what was his name, McDonald?
Oh yeah, not McDonald.
Yeah, he's going to enjoy that. Okay, cool. Well, that's great. I mean, I love that. I can't wait to see the statues in there, and I can't wait to see where my face is not, because obviously
you're not invested enough.
I
Change your tactics, Stan.
But we could add Stan's face to the profanity filter as well, so it just gets wherever it appears.
When the picture of Stan's face on the mouth whenever a swear word is said. Yeah, do that. So a hot topic that's currently happening in the community right now, I think we're getting about 20 variations of the same question every single day, is mainly about the pricing of the land and how it's going to work. So we get like questions like, how much do we need to pay for land? Will we need a subscription? Or I don't have that much Metacoin. Can I afford anything? So what I really want to ask is, how is pricing and land purchasing going to work? And how do those discounts work with and without them?
You will have to pay for a plot of land, just to clarify. So everyone, that's straight out there. Yes, you will have to buy a plot of land, and you will use Metacoin to purchase it. So if you've already got a load of Metacoin saved up, you can use that. You don't have to put more dollars in. It will not be tied to a need to have a subscription. And the pricing model will be geared towards a fairly high basic price of land, which will be higher if you're talking about an area of land that already has loads of buildings on it, like say Grand Central, but then we'll be applying lots of discounts to it down to a minimum of probably 5,000 Metacoin. So we don't want to give things away for nothing, because we find typically that just devalue them, and you don't want to devalue stuff. It's silly. The discounts that we are relatively certain of are a new starter bonus we're introducing, which will be very large bonuses when buying your first few plots. So, for example, we're committing to saying the first plot of land you buy will be 90% off, because we want everyone to be able to start and get involved.
Mm-hmm.
One we've already talked about is the sort of previous investment bonus. So if you've already spent a lot of money on apartments within a plot of land, the money you've spent will be deducted straight from the cost of that area of land. And those are the two, I guess, core getting started bonuses. On top of that, we've got two definite additional ones. One is what we're calling the population bonus. And the idea of this is, if you're buying a plot, but there are neighboring plots that you own that have lots of people in them, that have a high population, buying this new one will be cheaper. The idea is that encourages you to start a city and build out, rather than just buying random plots of land all over the place. We're always going to be encouraging and rewarding people that build towns or villages or cities. Not enforcing it. If you want to spend loads of Metacoin, you can build little things all over the place. But this population bonus encourages that behavior. And in a similar way, what I'm currently calling the gentrification bonus, but that's a really confusing word. If you're buying a plot of land and you own neighboring plots that have got lots of pretty statues and improvements in, you'll be getting discounts again. So again, we're rewarding people for improving rather than just going, bleh. We're currently thinking the base price for a plot of land, so this would be an empty plot of land with no discounts whatsoever, would be 100,000 Metacoin. There will be an additional cost for getting somewhere like Grand Central, because you're buying something with a lot more value, with instant Metacoin earning potential. You won't have to develop it to make Metacoin. But then these discounts will bring it down substantially. And I could very much see, early on, there's going to be a lot of people that can end up with plots of land at big discounts using only what they already have, the Metacoin that they already have. They're going to be able to dive straight in. But the important way I look at it, and this is key to the design, is we're making it cheap, especially for our early investors, to get involved and own a plot of land. You'll then be able to earn Metacoin as a result of owning it, because people will be able to buy apartments and you will get a large percentage of that purchase. FTL will only be taking a 2.5% platform fee from those. Then you'll get discounts for improving plots or for buying ones nearby. And as a result of earning the Metacoin and getting the discounts, you'll be able to buy another plot. And it's running a business. Time, investment, you'll be able to grow. So you won't have to be rich in order to do it.
I got a couple of questions here, because this is all very, very interesting, and my brain is strategizing and I'm trying to work out where my gold statue is, or how many of them I can get. But just to be clear, we're saying that, the minimum a plot is going to cost me is about 5,000 Metacoin.
Yeah, we're going to put a baseline cost on it just to make sure that everything has some value. Because in our experience with the economy, things that cost nothing just don't make it better for anyone.
So but just to be clear, that doesn't mean that plot is only worth 5,000 Metacoin. The plot could be worth a lot more. It's just that the discounts applied to me are going to make it possible for me to buy it very cheap.
Yeah.
So the value of the land I'm getting is actually potentially massive, but
yeah, absolutely.
I'm only paying a small amount for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with those, I mean, as the new user who hasn't bought any before, the discounts for getting started are going to be vast.
So it's very important to decide which plot of land I want,
where you started,
where I start, and I need to be doing that immediately. As soon as those leaderboards go up, I need to be going around and working out where my gold statue is going to be. And then I need to think about whether or not I want to buy the plot next to it or invest in my plot to make the plot next to it cheaper.
Yeah, and earn Metacoin to make it easier to afford.
So I could, for example, buy a plot, not buy anything else, spend loads of Metacoin on making it awesome, hold loads of events in that district or area of that plot, and have a storefront with loads of activity there, draw loads of people in, and then move forward and buy other areas. Probably cheaper, but I'd risk the potential that maybe Nikki came in and set up shop next to me because Nikki likes hanging out near me and thinks my events are cool, and wants to scrounge off of me and my event, my plot.
Of course. Classic so Nikki.
Classic. I just want to make sure everybody understands who we're dealing with. Nikki Town.
Oh, the stories.
And then the opposite side of that is that if I've got a lot of Metacoin in my pocket and I need to be able to spend it because I've got a vision for what I want to do, I could go in and I could buy up, 6 or 10 plots in an area, and then I could build those up myself afterwards.
Yep. That's good.
Okay, well, my strategies are forming.
Yeah, I can already see that you're going to lead the way and everyone's just going to follow in your footsteps. I already know that. I see it coming. But then again, you might have an entirely cool set of strategies, but someone else will outdo you.
I've really seen about 3 or 4 different strategies on Discord and on Facebook, and some of them I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. Yeah. And I see those like, whoa, they've nailed it. So I think that there's probably more than one way to tackle this.
Yeah, exactly.
There is. I mean, in the real world, there's more than one way to run a business. That will be the case in the metaverse.
And then just to say again, the base price of something we're saying is going to be 100,000 Metacoin, but that's the base price. That doesn't mean that's the price that I have to pay based upon me coming in as a starter or a newbie or somebody who's invested. That is just the base price. And then there's going to be variations up and down. And ultimately, just to be clear, the price that I would pay for a plot of land could be very different to the price that you two paid.
Yeah.
So if I went and looked at the price for Crown Exarchus, and Chris went to look for the price of Crown Exarchus, and Nikki went to, wherever you are, went to look at the price of Crown Exarchus, we'd all be seeing different prices based upon who we are, how many plots we've bought, where we've invested, whether we've bought nearby, and whether we put any gentrification or prettiness, as I like to call it, in there. And therefore, we're going to find a very dynamic pricing structure that's different per user.
Yeah, and that will encourage a way of working that makes it better for everyone.
Sneaky, awesome.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it.
Hey.
That's extremely exciting. I look forward to seeing whatever tactics you come up with and whatever the community comes up with. But one of the questions that I want to just ask, we're talking about people buying the land and developing on it, but what about people who come across land, buy it, and then do nothing with it? Because that's what they want to do. They want to sit and hold it.
I mean, as I say, from the outset, the pricing is all geared towards making it cheaper to buy land if you've invested and worked on neighboring land. So ultimately, from a cost perspective, just buying and sitting on it is the worst thing you could do. But also, we have to face facts. We cannot have our cake and eat it too. If we want to have a proper market that people can grow and invest in, we can't control that market with an iron fist. And sometimes there are genuinely going to be people who want to come in and buy a plot of land and not do anything with it. And that's kind of their prerogative. But The important thing is the worst case scenario there is that piece of land isn't going to get improved. It's still not going to get worse. Right now, none of our areas of land get naturally improved. So the worst case scenario for you is going to be an area that does what it's currently doing. The best case scenario is it's going to be a hell of a lot more awesome.
Just to run a couple of thought experiments on that. I mean, if I buy a plot of land and I sit on it and do nothing, that's a little bit like sort of wasting an opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. And to be honest, in my experience in life, most of the time, when people have to spend something that they spent time earning on something, it's because they intend to do something with it. It's not always the case. But generally, people's silliness stops when it costs them. You see it a lot.
But then just to be clear, I mean, if we're in a situation where somebody has bought a plot of land and they're doing nothing with it, but you're thinking, well, I've got some property there and I'd like to make it awesome. I've got a vision for this area. You could theoretically contact that owner and say, well, I'd like to help you make it better. Or eventually, when we support it, purchase it from you.
Absolutely. I can see various ways of doing this. So although we're not going to launch with it, we will certainly eventually be supporting the same types of offering and trading mechanics that property has. Honestly, the reason we're not launching with that is just time. But you will be able to make someone an offer for a piece of land if you want it instead of them. As San also points out, we want to also introduce ways for people to cooperate on improving something. So we already have with metaverses, some people have bought a metaverse and then got someone else to work on improving it and managing it. Where I think we want to go is the ability to associate a plot of land with a metaverse, just like you can a storefront. And then if you've got other managers of that metaverse, they can come in and improve it. So you could contact that person and say, I can see you don't want to do anything with this because you're busy. Can I help?
So ultimately, even if the plot of land gets purchased and somebody doesn't do something with it, potentially it's even better than just having it owned by us where we don't do anything with it, because there's more of an opportunity for you to be able to contact somebody who have a sway. Whereas with us, we've got a very limited number of staff people. We can't go and do every plot every day of every month of every year.
Nope.
Therefore, it would take too long for us to do this sort of thing. Whereas by giving it out to the community, we're in a sense making it much more likely that your plot of land will go, or your property will be on a plot that goes up in value.
The way I look at it is a plot of land that FTL currently controls, purely down to the number of plots of land versus the number of people in FTL, there's a 99.99999% chance it's never going to change. That's only going to get improved upon.
My thought experiment is if you don't want to develop it, say like you do purchase it and you go the route of using your metaverse to bring people in and get others to manage it, you could theoretically, provided we do what you've mentioned about providing more features to a metaverse in future, could theoretically invite an entire district or entire community of people to a single metaverse, allow them to organize drop events, use our upcoming event request system to promote your new statue that you've all come together and agreed that would drop, create your own event and bring people into your plot of land. And that's your community doing it, that's part of your metaverse. You as the landowner just own the land and gave them the tools, which is great from my point of view.
Very cool ideas on that front as well. Like, one thing I really like the idea of doing is, obviously we've been developing this map room, eventually allowing somebody who has a metaverse to be able to create a map room that points at a certain location. So the Alliance can create an Alliance map room.
Cool.
That's been decorated, Alliance themed. That you walk into, you can see an overview of Alliance City. The possibilities are fairly endless there. They're not going to be immediate, but they're exciting.
And that's the long play, isn't it?
Yeah. I think this is going to be one of those situations where I've said it before in AMAs and things. The way the roadmap evolves will be a combination of what people want and what's easy to do. We often talk about, maximum gain. minimum effort, because there may be a really cool feature we'd like to do, and it'll take 6 months. There may be another similarly cool feature, or almost as cool one, that'll take 2 weeks. If that's the case, we'll do the 2 weeks one first.
Yeah.
But just to run through that thought experiment, because I'm stuck on the thing that Nikki was talking about here. If I buy a plot of land, let's say I buy 4 Cryonic Circus and do nothing with it.
You're not getting 4 Cryonic Circus.
Let's say I managed to get 4 Cryonic Circus, and I'm in a situation where I'm doing nothing with it, and you're like, well, I own the penthouse of 4 Cryonic, and I want to be able to make my world better. I'd actually be losing out, because sure, I'd be holding on to it potentially to sell it for more value later, but later other plots are going to be better than mine because I didn't do anything to it.
Yeah.
So in effect, that would be one of the worst things I could do with a valuable plot. I don't know, with one of the drops, let's take one of the places where people have put something awesome, like we put something awesome like a flamingo. If I went and did nothing with my flamingo plot, then my flamingo plot would become less valuable over time as opposed to more valuable, and it would be a bad decision by me to buy it now and do nothing with it.
It'd be a better decision to sell it.
And your investment increases the value as well. So I'm thinking about it in terms of, if you develop it now and increase the desirability and the attraction of there, and more people come in, you're increasing the value not just for you but for everybody that's in there. And then in the future, if someone comes in who's like, hey, look at all these plots are for sale that everyone's got put up, which one is going to cost me the least amount to have to do up? Your plot is more desirable.
And the other thing there, which is, I think, important, because I think you mentioned it, but it might have just snuck under the radar, is that the earnings I'll get from a successful plot are going to be more than the cost of developing it. And therefore, I'm going to be able to do more with it and increase mine by actually investing into it and making it better. So if you two bought into my empty plot and now I've got a bit of Metacoin because you bought in, I should be spending that Metacoin and making it better, because that's going to make more people come, which will give me more Metacoin, which will give it better, or buy a plot next door.
Yep, absolutely.
So ultimately, we incentivize making it better.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Just buying and forgetting about something would be stupid. Sometimes it's going to happen, but we envisage it will happen relatively little, because most of the time when people invest in something, it's because they don't want to lose. So, yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Fantastic.
So I think we've only got really time for one more question. So this has probably flown under people's radars, but what about people who have storefronts the other side of the map, who might want to move their storefront to an area that they're developing? Are we going to be able to trade storefronts at any point?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, that's on the radar. I don't have an exact time for that, but part of removing sell now, I'm not going to go into maths because it annoys people who aren't, but ultimately that inflationary economy that was created by sell now, which was a very good way of starting an economy, made it prohibitive to sell things like storefronts, which had a very high value. Now that we've removed that inflationary side, we've started to be able to introduce more interesting features and unlock more features, and one of those will certainly be the ability to trade storefronts, offer on storefronts, put storefronts up for sale, just like you can anything else, and just like you will be able to do eventually with plots of land.
It's good to know that you could, in the future, trade a plot of land in the same way you trade a property, I guess.
Absolutely.
I think that's all we've got time for this video, or else it's just going to go on for hours and hours, because I know you two could probably go for another 2-3 hours, and I'd prefer to eat and sleep at some point today, just saying. You've been incredibly insightful. I'm pretty sure that a lot has been clarified today, and the community is already very much going to run wild with just the information you've got and given out today. There's likely going to be more questions too, and I'll keep an eye on those, but I think you've done a great job today. Thank you for your time. Do you want to say anything before we sign off?
I think the main things that I want people to come away with is that it is really important, and we care passionately about making sure that areas people are already invested in will only end up improved. We're not going to release an editing feature until we feel that that requirement has been met with that feature. Full stop. The goal of this is to make it easy for everybody who wants to be involved to get involved. Ultimately, people who want to own tons of land will have to spend more than people that only want to own little. But it's also important to know that if you don't want to be involved with this, if you don't care about owning plots of land, or if you feel you can't afford to own plots of land, don't. It's fine. Yeah, you can ignore it altogether and still enjoy the app just as you currently do. You'll probably find the fact that other people do care about this feature will just mean you see improvements over time. I think a good analogy for that is to think of it in terms of the internet, where not everybody who uses the internet is a web developer, but web developers make the internet awesome for everyone. And it's going to be the same situation with this property development, I think.
I mean, that's all well and good, Chris, but where's my gold statue? That's all I want. I'm gonna log off with the last thought being, watch out there. I'm in it for a gold statue, and I'm gonna be buying up some land. And it might not be Bionic Circus, it might be somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm gonna log off with the commitment to preventing Chan buying a plot of land.
Good. I like this. Rise of Nicky Town.
No, I'm just going to end up being whatever plot of land I buy, he'll remove the statue.
Yeah.
No, he'll turn it into his cube. Oh, good job.
Okay, guys.
Cool.
Thanks for today. That was awesome.
Yeah.
All the best. See you guys
in the next video.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.